Morning, how are you doing? We're back in Melling. We've been staying here overnight. Sean's just busy putting the pram covers down, getting the engine started. We're heading that way this morning, back towards, well, through Maghull to start with, and we've got a couple of swing bridges there, and we're heading for bridge 20. We've got to be there for 12 o'clock today. That's when they open the bridge manually to let the boats through, and then they're closing it off again till Friday. So we don't want to be stuck around, so we've got to try and get there. We should do for about 11 o'clock this morning, fingers crossed, and we'll see you there. There's 60 swing bridges on the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, and although a few are left open permanently, more than 50 are still in regular use. Today we're passing through the 4 in Maghull, and it's during the school run, which isn't ideal. Normally we'd wait until after the rush hour, but we do need to get to bridge 20 in time or we'll be stuck for a few days. So we're going to pass through as quickly as we can. The kids are loving watching the boat, even if the parents aren't too impressed at being delayed by a couple of minutes. It's just before lunchtime and we are at bridge 20 on the Leeds Liverpool Canal going that way, east. This is the bridge where they had all the problems. The gubbins was vandalised, the gubbins that works the thingamabob. If you just look over my left shoulder, you can probably see the guys in orange, workman's gear, the contractors. So it's going to be closed for a while. What they're doing is on Mondays and Fridays, they manually open the bridge midday at 12 noon, which it is, invisible watch, 2 minutes to 12. So you can see the boats queuing up. We're all going to go one way first, and then once, I think there's about half a dozen boats going east. Once we've gone through, then the boats going west towards Liverpool will come through. And then the bridge is locked again, and you can't get back through until Friday. So you're a bit stuck. If you've got like the Liverpool Link booked and you miss this today,
cheese.
Yeah. This is an electronically operated swing bridge, and it works in a similar way to a railway crossing. We press a button, the barriers come down, and then the bridge swings open, the boat passes, we close the bridge and the barriers are raised. According to the workmen on the site, a JCB digger had crashed into the machinery that controls all the mechanics of the bridge, and they're having to completely rebuild it. So while they're fixing it, the workmen manually open and close the bridge the old-fashioned way, using muscle power. And that allows boats to pass through, and they're going to do this twice a week until the bridge is fixed. It's my favourite kind of swing bridge. Disused. So we've been cruising for about 3 and a bit hours. We started in Melling this morning. We come through Maghull, past bridge 20, and there's a few boats waiting to get through that. It's been a good day, hasn't it?
It's been a beautiful day.
It's been a nice day. Just a little tip, if you're going through Maghull, there's 4 swing bridges. Just be careful that you don't hit that first swing bridge in rush hour or like school run.
We did.
Sean did, and they do not like it.
Pipping their horns at me and everything.
Further along, there's some that have got some like timers on them anyway, aren't there?
Yeah, they
So
have. Yeah, you can't use them till 9:30.
After 9:30, and then not after 2 until I think it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So just be careful of those. Lots of swing bridges on the Leeds and Liverpool Canal anyway, and it's weird how they're all different, isn't it?
Every single one's different. You need both keys on some, one key on the other, and the other key on the other.
It's like you got like manual ones and some electric ones, and even like the electric ones are different, aren't there? Some
Yeah.
of them are all electric, some of them are half electric, and you push it yourself.
Well, there was that one where I put the British Waterways key in, turned it, the barriers came down, and I'm stood there waiting for the bridge to move. Then I looked down, and there's an arm I had to push. I'd open it myself.
For many years, the Lancaster Canal was isolated from the main canal network, but that all changed in December 2000 when work started to construct the Millennium Ribble Link, and that would see the Lancaster rejoin the network. Part of a drainage brook had to be widened and deepened so that boats could use it, and 9 new locks were built. When it opened in 2002, it connected the Lancaster Canal just by the outskirts of Preston to the Leeds and Liverpool Rufford branch at Tarleton. We can only use the Ribble Link when the tide's between certain levels. If it's too high or too low, it's not safe to go. And there's about 90 days each year between April and October where it's safe to cross. It doesn't cost us anything extra to do this, it's all included as part of our boat's licence, which we pay for every year.
Good morning.
Morning.
It is morning as well.
It is.
It's about 9 o'clock, Sunday morning, and Silver Fox is behind us,
There she is.
over there. We are just before Lock 8, the Tarleton Lock. We're in Tarleton. It is a good little village. If you're here for a day or two, there's
Loads of amenities, isn't there?
yeah, there's pubs, there's a co-op, there's a fresh butcher's,
Yeah.
fruit and veg, there's a lovely little chocolate shop come cafe thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
The thing is, there's not that many moorings here. There's probably enough for about 6 boats.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's, I think, how many go down onto the Ribble Link each day. So it is all right, but there's already 2 kind of longer term boats moored up, which means there's only room for like 4 or 5 boats at most. So depending what time you need to get here, which is normally like 2 to 4 hours before you're due to go down onto the river, you can just come up that morning.
Yeah.
Because there's some lovely moorings back towards, I think it's Solemn, Bridge 10,
Yeah,
where the
that's right,
services are.
Yeah.
So don't rush to come up and spend days here, because you can come up on the morning. But if you are here for a couple of days, all the services are up in the town, so it's great. So today we're going to drop down onto the River Douglas. That's for about 3.5 miles. Then we join the River Ribble. We go up the River Ribble for a couple of miles, and then we turn left into the Brook, and then through some locks and onto the Lancaster.
Yeah.
So we've got to have what we've got to have. We've got to have his life jackets on, which we've got ready. Dylan's got to have his life jacket. We've got to have our anchor and 30 metres of chain and rope.
Yeah.
It says you're supposed to have a flare. CRT recommends it, but you don't actually need it. Make sure your mobile phone is switched on and charged up.
Or your VHF radio.
Or your VHF radio, and make sure you've got the number for the people that you might need to ring in an emergency.
Yes.
Right,
Shall we do it?
I need another cup of coffee first.
Come on then, let's have a coffee before we go.
Just had another coffee. I've come down to the river to see how it's getting on. You can see it's really low. It's like 2 or 3 metres lower than it needs to be before we can drop into it from the river lock. Now, the time that we're due to get on it is just after midday today. That's when the tide's going to be just right for us to get on, get through onto the Ribble and off into the Brook before we get into the Lancaster. So keeping an eye on it, I can still see the water's moving that way, which means the tide is starting to come in, but it is very slow at the moment. I'm scared.
Here.
Dylan's scared.
Dylan's not scared, are you?
Should we be scared? The fact that we've got to wear life jackets means that we should be scared.
But we're still on the canal.
Still scared. We're literally just going in to Tarleton Lock. We've been told to get there for 11 o'clock, and it is
Nearly 11.
11 o'clock. Pray for us.
Pray for us.
Tarleton Lock has got two sets of tailgates. The set with the lower beams are the normal canal lock gates to come on or off the river, and the bigger, higher gates are there to stop the river from flooding the canal during unusually high tides. Today is one of the highest tides of the year at just over 7 metres, and the strength of that current coming straight towards us is going to be really challenging. If it's too strong, boats aren't allowed onto the river, but today we've been cleared to go, only just. And because of today's high tide, we've been told we're going to need to give the engine some serious welly once those gates open, otherwise we might get caught by the current and end up in serious trouble. Some friends are joining us on their boat today, and as you'll see, they weren't messing about once those gates opened. They were off.
Oh my god, look at the waves! I wasn't expecting this. This is mental.
Crazy, isn't it?
We're doing about 2,000 revs and we're moving at about 1 mile an hour, if that. Tide is apparently, CRT man said it's one of the biggest tides of the year. You should feel the force, it's amazing.
It's just crazy.
The wash at the side of the boat is like that, especially down at the bow. It's coming into the gas locker right at the front where we've got all the coal and wood. That's all soaking wet now.
It'll dry by the time we use it.
And you can literally see the river getting higher and higher every few minutes. I am proper scared. See, I said pray for me, didn't I? I don't know where Pat and Eileen have gone. They're about a mile in front of us now.
I think he must be doing about 3,000 revs.
Yeah.
Does it go to that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm panicking because it smells like the engine's burning and the coolant's like that far from the top of the expansion tank. But I'm running the hot water because that's supposed to like introduce cooler water in, and I don't know. But I'm doing it anyway and it doesn't smell like burning anymore. So hopefully that's a winner.
Fingers crossed.
It's really settled down.
I think the tide's in now, isn't it?
It's got wide, hasn't it? This is like nowhere near as wide as it's going to get. On that side is Hesketh Bank, and we're just about halfway between the Tarleton Lock and the entrance to the Ribble. And how long does it take us? 4 days?
38 minutes.
38 minutes, it's not too bad. So we're nearly at the Asland Lamp. This is where the river comes and it kind of goes round the Asland Lamp onto the Ribble. We're probably about 15 minutes away from it. Over that way is you can just see in the distance the Pennines, and Preston is a few miles that way. If we do turn left, we'll end up going past Lytham and then out towards the Isle of Man and Ireland.
Blackpool!
Blackpool! This is really wide. I'm finding it scary. Sean's fine.
Yeah.
But then Sean used to be in the Navy, so he's going to be fine with it. This is like really hugely wide, very wide. So this is where we joined the Ribble, so Aslan's Lamp they call it,
Just ahead of us.
and we have to go left of the lamp and then do a right turn round onto the Ribble. If we cut short the lamp, we could get grounded. There's an old wall that comes out and you literally would get grounded. You'd hit the wall underneath the water. So we have to kind of go left and then round, or just left onto Ireland. We're watching out for a sign for Savick Brook. That's where we turn left off the Ribble, and there's a sea lock there, and we go up some locks onto the Lancaster. So what we've got to do is, as soon as we see this sign, there's something called a 2-mile perch, which I think is just over there, and then we've got to ring the CRT team. Don't know why, but we'll find out when we ring them, I guess. When we get to a certain point, we've got to watch out for a green light. Over there, we can see the green light. So that means that we can go on to Savick Brook, which is where the sea lock is. Now the instructions are, if you don't see a green light, don't enter, you've got to carry on. And you end up
to Preston.
Yeah, you have to go all the way into Preston and moor up at Preston Dock. The thing is, even if it's not your fault or the CRT's fault, and you can't get into Savick Brook and you end up going down into Preston, you still have to pay for the mooring there. Cheeky. So we're about 500 yards away from the green light. We can see the green light, so we're just going to go up. The tide is just starting to turn a little bit, I think, isn't it? Because we were slowing down a little bit. So we've got to go slightly past the turn and then kind of come back round and in like that.
Like a handbrake turn.
Like a handbrake turn. I feel a little bit less scared now.
Not so wide.
We've come off the River Ribble, that's it, just back there. We're now on the Savick Brook, which it just looks like a really flooded brook. You imagine a brook has been like 6 foot wide, don't you? And it probably is, to be honest. When we looked at it on Google Earth, it's just like this little brook. But it just looks like flooded at the moment. Because the tide is still quite high, that's a song on it. Tide is high and moving on. Because the tide is still quite high, the water level's too high for the bridges just round the corner. So the boats won't get under the bridges till the water level's dropped. So we've tied up to this jetty and we're just waiting for the water levels to go down.
After the bridge, there's a couple of really tight bends. These first two are really sharp for our 57-foot boat. I wouldn't like to be trying to get a 62-foot boat around here. For many centuries, Savick Brook was just a meandering watercourse. It drained water from the land and took it down to the River Ribble. So when it was altered to allow passage for canal boats, a lot of work had to be done, including widening and dredging it. It's easy to see that this isn't a normal canal. We could actually see the water level falling by the inch every few minutes, and it wasn't long before the bottom of our boat was dragging the bed of the brook, and that just slows us down. As quiet as it looks, we just want to reach this first lock and get off this lower part of Savick Brook as soon as we can. So it's a relief when the water level opens out a bit and we catch sight of the lock where the Canal and River Trust staff are waiting for us. It's so nice to be able to chill just for a few minutes after that scary crossing of the River Douglas and Ribble and then almost grounding on Savick Brook. We've got to stay alert though. As we pass under Bridge 8, we cut right through the middle of a golf course, so we've got to watch out for any wayward golf balls. It does look nice and tranquil, but I've seen this brook when it floods. Even at this point, the water level can reach the bottom of the bridge.
This is a lot better than Savick Brook was. I tell you, that was pretty scary. Not as scary as coming onto that like full-on tide as we came out of Tarleton Lock. That was pretty nail-biting. Shaun's doing well with the driving, as you can see. And we are behind Pat and Eileen on Narrowboat done working, and we're heading towards Lock 4 now.
After this lock, there's another 3 to go, but they're one after another. It's called a staircase lock. It's a little bit different, and that's where the top gates of the lock we're in form the bottom gates of the next lock. They're designed to raise the canal over a shorter distance than normal. So one of the guys from the Canal and River Trust is giving us some advice on how to use the locks, because there's a really sharp left-hand turn to get into the bottom lock from the navigation, and it's way too sharp to be able to turn the boat and get into. So we're going to have to reverse into that bottom lock, then reverse back into each of the other locks before reversing out at the top, turning round into a forward position, and then we can leave the top pound onto the Lancaster Canal. Sound confusing? Nah, it's easy, but I bet Shaun gets me to do the reversing bit. Pat goes first, and he makes a pretty good job of it. Nice and steady, Pat, well done. Right, our turn. I told you Shaun would make me do this, didn't I? It's more difficult than it looks reversing a narrowboat, because you can't really steer it while it's in reverse. The trick is to get the boat into a position by using your forward gear. Then you can reverse to move the boat back in that position. If it goes off course, you just give it a small forward movement to bring it back to where you want it to go, and then reverse again. You could also use a bow thruster. It's a little bit like a propeller that's fitted under the front of the boat, and it moves the bow left or right, which is easier when you're reversing. We've got one fitted on Silver Fox, but today I'm going to try and do it without using it. Well, that didn't look half as bad as I felt it looked. I think I did alright there. The final 3 locks raise us up by just over 29 feet and take us to the basin at the top, which is also the junction to the Lancaster Canal.
And here we are.
We did it.
We got here in one piece. Oh, I didn't think we were gonna.
It was touch and go at one bit, wasn't it?
Well, thanks for that, because I was saying that and you're like, no, it's all right.
Well, just when we came out of the lock.
When those lock gates open, at Tarleton onto the Douglas, the river is like, the tide is full on coming in, and it kind of funnels and channels through this narrow stretch of the Douglas. So the lock gates open, and Pat on the boat next to us kind of shifts his gear up a little bit, and nothing happens. So he just like rams it forward, and off he goes at like 0.5 mile an hour. And because the tide is kind of so rushing in, the wash that his boat is creating is like, no, it's not. It was like a foot high at least. So this wash, well, they've seen it themselves now.
Yeah.
The wash is like coming up against the front and sides of the boat, and I'm panicking, running up and down the centre of the boat. Shaun, we're sinking.
He was as well.
The gas locker at the front is flooded. All the coal and logs are wet.
Oh dear.
And it was like that high above the drain for the front gas locker. It does calm down, doesn't it? Eventually,
it did.
the river starts to widen out, so there's like not as much funneling of the water, and it does calm down a bit. So tip number 1 is, if you're in Tarleton Lock, be the first one out.
Yes.
Because you get the smoother ride.
Yeah, you do.
And then Savick Brook. I never want to do Savick Brook again. And I think we were lucky. We just got through. You can literally see the water level falling.
It's just dropping as the tide goes out, doesn't it?
And some of the bends are quite tight. We've got a 57-foot boat, and I thought some of the bends were quite tight. If you've got a 62-foot boat,
Not a chance. I wouldn't like to do that.
apart from like the staircase, as soon as we knew the staircase locks were coming, that you have to reverse into, Shaun was like, Colin!
There were no way I were doing all that with all those people watching. There were loads.
I didn't realise how many people were stood up watching until I was editing this. I think I did a good job of that.
You did it perfect.
There you go,
Absolutely perfect.
And then once you come out the top, you reverse out of the top lock, and then you have to turn round
And just head off.
and you come out onto the junction. You can either turn left up the Lancaster North, or you can turn right and go into Preston, which is just a dead end. And they were having a lot of problems with weed, weren't there?
There were quite a bit when we came out under the bridge and turned left, wasn't there?
Yeah, and apparently it gets worse down into Preston. People complaining.
Yeah.
People walking on it, thinking it was...
It was dogs mainly, wasn't it?
Yeah. I heard somebody who kind of walked on it.
Really?
Yeah. So we've heard a lot of great things, and we can't wait to explore.
Can't wait. Dylan's going to love it.
Dylan is loving it. And we will see you next time. See you later.
See you later. Bye-bye.